Hello and welcome to Neuroshambles, the podcast that aims to shine a light into some of the murkier corners of what it's like to parent neurodivergent kids. I'm Mark Allen, and every episode I'm going to be swapping stories with my guests about some of the frankly ludicrous nonsense we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, if you're anything like me and you're feeling frazzled, overwhelmed and pretty much an outcast from polite society, join me. Hello and welcome to episode 41 of Neuroshambles. As always, it's a joy to have you here as we chronicle yet another chaotic chapter of our neuroshambolic lives. Thanks also for your lovely comments on the socials and the emails you're sending in. They are genuinely heartwarming to receive, so yeah, it's much appreciated. I had one recently from Becky who said, "Hey, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your podcast. I've only just come across it, but I'm so glad I found it because it's so brilliant, and as a mum of a recently diagnosed ADHD 6-year-old, it just makes me feel seen and understood. Thanks for bringing some light to the sometimes hard and chaotic days. I look forward to making my way through all of the episodes." Good luck, Becky. You've got a lot to catch up on, but I'm going to be taking a pause from the podcast over the summer holidays, so you're going to have plenty of time to make a dent in the Neuroshambles back catalogue. Anyway, I've got a really fun episode lined up this week where I'll be welcoming back a previous guest to get her take on the topic of the week that I'm hoping resonates with some of you. We'll also have some neurodiversity champions, tiny epic wins, and the timeless classic what the flip moments. So let's roll our sleeves up and get stuck in.
Meet the guest.
So this week's guest is someone who featured in season 1 of Neuroshambles and who I've been trying to lure back for a while now. As you can imagine, life with neurodivergent kids tends to throw up a few curveballs, so we haven't been able to make it happen until now. So as well as being a solo parent of 2 kids, at least one of whom is neurodivergent, she is also a hugely funny comedian, podcast host and a writer. So I am delighted to be able to welcome back, it's Hatty Ashdown. How you doing, Hattie?
I'm all right. And also now I was already one of the gang because I was dyslexic. I was diagnosed dyslexic when I was 21. But about a month and a half ago, I had my ADHD diagnosis. So
yeah, so came through.
Triple
Excellent.
threat now.
But I mean, as we've discussed, I already knew that, right?
Well, yeah, I know. But I'm just telling you the world.
And this is an interesting little peek behind the scenes of Neuroshambles, but I have guests on, and I can tell just by how much I need to edit whether they are neurodivergent or not.
And is that because they dart all over the place?
Yeah, because they'll start a sentence and then their mind will go somewhere else and they'll like dart off in a different direction and then they'll come back. But obviously I have to try and edit in some sort of narrative into this and try to make it a little bit more cohesive. So it does give me a slightly more challenging edit. However, I find them a bit more fun to listen to, I guess. So yeah, I try not to edit out all of your character, Hattie. So if you're listening to this, Neuroshamblers, you'll know, depending on how many conversational divergences...
How many tabs we open, that's what I call them.
Depending on how many tabs we open in this conversation, you'll know whether I've just given up the will to edit. Anyway, it's good to know about you and your diagnosis, but for the listeners who might not have listened to the previous episode that we recorded back in season 1, please remind us of your setup and whether you have any pseudonyms for your children. Because if you remember last time, your son was called Keith.
Keith! That's right, Keith.
So
Keith.
Are you going to stick with Keith?
Yeah.
You're going to stick with Keith, okay. Okay, so tell me about Keith's diagnoses.
Yeah, so he's 9, nearly 10 in a month or so, and he was diagnosed with ADHD and autism about 3 years ago now.
Double whammy.
And
what about the other child? What's their
No, at the moment, we are displaying. Sometimes I think he's a little bit dyslexic with his, writing and stuff. But it's hard to tell. He's going to be 7 this Saturday, so it's hard to tell. They're at that age, aren't they? So, but no, at the moment, not. He's just my sensitive one, but in a different way.
Don't get complacent.
I know. But he said to me the other day, he said, Mummy, I'm the only one who's not got something in the house because it's me and Keith. Yeah. But no, we can't have him. We need him to look. He literally does look after us. It's quite funny.
All right. Well, thank you for introducing us to your neuroshambolic family. Let's crack on with the topic of the week.
What's the topic of the week?
So this week's topic is one of the ones that I have touched on briefly in a couple of episodes, but the more I thought about it, the more I felt compelled to do a standalone episode on it, because it's another one of those regular activities that are seemingly straightforward for neurotypicals, but which become a whole different basket of weasels for us neurodivergents when you... and that is the subject of swimming. Right, because there are so many moving parts to any swimming trip. Like getting them changed, getting them into the pool, getting them out of the pool, getting them to leave the showers. That's all before you even consider the unique drama of teaching them to swim in the first place. So I thought we should unpick it a little bit more in detail, in the hope that other people can listen to it and share our pain and some of the pleasure and joy from it as well. There's an important disclaimer I want to make at this point. I will say at the outset that I don't enjoy swimming, right? I genuinely dislike swimming. It is so much effort for so little distance.
What, yourself or taking the kids? Or both?
Myself, taking the kids is a complicated thing, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But for myself, I'd never choose it as a mode of transport.
A mode of transport?
I don't like it because I can't help, like, it's just like you're using your whole body and you just think, I could just get out and walk. It'd be so much quicker. So I don't really enjoy swimming myself. And when you factor in the seismic levels of faff involved in taking my kids swimming on my own as a solo parent without any of us drowning, right? That's crucial. Yeah. But having said that, my kids bloody love swimming. They're so happy in the water. Yeah, all three of them. It's one of the few things that they all enjoy doing. Because I've got three of them and they've got very, very different personalities. So there are very few things that they're all on board with. And it's basically swimming, eating pizza, or pretending I have curly hair. They're the three things that they're united in. Right. The only three things that they all agree on. I know. So swimming holds a special place for us. But how about you? I mean, how is swimming for you lot?
I love swimming. I'm a bit of a water baby. I used to swim by choice after school on my own. I was one of those nerds. So I do love a swim, and you just talking about it is making me go, everything, the reasons you love it, you hate it, I love it. Like, it stretches your whole body, and yeah, I love it. But I never really had professional lessons. Like, I think we did, I did the ones at school. And at first, I remember being a little bit scared, but I was scared of other children. I keep thinking other children were going to dunk my heads under the water and stuff like that. I don't know why. I think I just watched other kids doing it. But I eventually learnt to swim in the sea on holiday.
Okay.
Like, really kind of like my brother-in-law just going, take off your armbands. And I was like, no. And he was like, just take off your armbands. And it was like, I don't know. It was like something about somebody just like telling me.
He just seems so confident.
I know. Yeah, that's probably what it was. And I was a little bit scared of him. So, I needed that. Yeah.
So you thought he was going to dunk your head under if you didn't do it.
Exactly.
All right, I'll do it. And then I'm going to swim to get away from you, you fucking nutter.
Yeah, exactly. But then that was it. I was off, and I love the sea swimming. It's one of my favourites. So I love it.
Okay. And I think it is, and this may or may not be linked to your neurodivergency, but the more parents of neurodivergent kids that I speak to about swimming, the more I think it has a very special place for our neuro-exceptional kids. There is something about swimming that scratches an itch, or it sort of gives them a pleasure that a lot of other things don't. And they're very much drawn to it, I find. And I think all kids do to a degree. I'm not saying that it's specific to neurodivergent kids, but I do think that it's a thing that neurodivergent kids pretty uniformly enjoy doing, from what I've seen. And I've got a theory.
Okay.
And I've got no evidence for this theory, as I have no evidence other than my own family for a lot of the theories that I come up with on this podcast. But I think it's related to the fact that it is so sensory, if you think about it, right? Yeah. Because if you're in water, there is a resistance around your whole body. Right. And my kids in particular seek sensory input from pressure. So they wear the stretchy bodysuits. Have you tried those?
Yes.
They're great. And they love that, and weighted blankets. And very often they will ask me to sit on them, which is a bit drastic and it feels a bit wrong, but they get a lot of pleasure out of it. So I do it. And so they seek that sensory kind of input from pressure a lot. And so being in the water, where your muscles have to work a bit harder and all of your muscles are working harder, I think give them a similar feeling.
Like the held feeling, because I say about that, how they like being held, and those sort of weighted, like waistcoat type things.
Oh, gilets and stuff. Yeah,
like a gilet type thing. It looks like a bullet vest.
Either this kid is a spy or he's neurodivergent. One of the two.
Guess. In a lineup, guess. Yeah, I'd say I'd never really thought about it like that, but it makes sense. And I'd say I know that Keith loves bath. You know, he has his tradition of having a bath every night, and he will lay there for ages. And and it's always been like that since he was little. It was like really good time for him to just chill out. So I just think the sensory of the water, it's focus, because it's like there's no other distractions around, you're just in that place.
I've got an interesting one. Does he submerge himself completely underwater?
He does in the bath, and he doesn't, because now we've got a hot tub, because I bought it for therapeutic reasons, of course.
Get you. Nice.
It's for therapeutic reasons.
For who? For him or for you?
Yeah, it's not for me. I can't stand it.
But you have to get in with him.
Of course, I have to.
Because this is a big thing for Jay, is that whenever we go swimming, he spends a lot of time with his head under the water. Either he will just completely sink to the bottom and stay there way longer than I'm comfortable with. Right? Or he will float like a corpse.
Right, yeah, I've seen.
Is fucking alarming. If you are a parent or a lifeguard and you see this kid face down in the water, arms out like he's dead, it's really quite alarming.
Keith did this exactly last night in the hot tub. I went, "Are you right?" And he went, "Yeah." I went, "Oh, well, you were dead." I went,
and I've actually spoken to Jay about this, because I have a theory that the being submerged underwater thing is also a sensory input, but it's not pressure. It's the silence that being underwater gives you. Because if you think about kids who are overwhelmed by noise and just busyness and chaos in the outside world, as soon as you go underwater, it's this kind of eerie silence. And I think that he got a lot out of that. So he spent quite a lot of time just underwater. And I think that's what the theory is for me.
Interesting.
I actually spoke to him about it as well recently, before I was doing this episode. I said, well, what is it about being in the water? And he said, it's the closest I can get to levitating.
Yeah.
Which I quite liked that. I'd not thought about that. Yeah. That's quite an interesting way of sort of perceiving
being weightless, and he must enjoy that part of it.
So you've got Jay, who is generally, pretty reckless and fearless about stuff, and India also loves being in water, and she doesn't really consider any limitations. She'll just throw herself into things. Otto, on the other hand, is incredibly fearful of most of the things in the world, apart from swimming. So again, he will throw himself into it. He loves it, absolutely loves it. He's just, again, and I've spoken about this quite a lot recently, but when his whole body is being used, his anxiety just disappears because he's having to do something physical and he doesn't get in his head as much. So with swimming, again, your whole body is being used, and I think that really helps as well. So he just loves it. Although our kids love water, I don't know if your kids are anything like mine, but the process of teaching them to swim has been a fucking nightmare. Jay was the first, obviously, because he's the oldest. And when I was in the water with him, you know, because you go through stages, right? And the initial stage is when they're toddlers and you take them in the water.
Did you do all that, like the baby classes and all that?
Yeah, and they were absolutely fine with it. You know, you get other kids who, you know, don't like getting their face wet and stuff. My kids just launching themselves in. They didn't give a hoot.
Yeah, I just remembering now, I was Mrs. like, thinking, yeah, look at my kids, so confident in the water when you've got these other kids that are crying about getting in. Mind it, and
no, my kids cry about getting out.
Yeah.
But so that was never a problem, getting their face wet, going under the water. And like you say, like I always felt quite proud when I took, like Otto in particular would just be hurling himself in, and people were genuinely quite surprised. And I was, proud dad as they were doing that. So that was fine. There was nothing unexpected there. Mm-hmm. The problem happened when he was too old for us to be in the water with him.
Yeah.
Right? Because then that's when it turned to shit, basically. Because it then stops being swimming with someone that you know and trust, and it becomes a lesson.
Yeah.
And lessons are problematic for my kids.
Yeah.
Because we tried so many different groups with Jay, and we came across the same problem every single time. Right. That he just wouldn't or couldn't listen to the teacher.
Follow instructions.
Yeah, couldn't follow instructions, couldn't focus on what the teacher was saying. And for me, quite early on, it was a sign of that he's different to a lot of these other kids. Yeah. Because I'd watch him from the side, and all the other parents are there going, like, watching their children and encouraging them. And the teacher would be giving the instructions of, like, I want you to do this stroke down to the end and back again. But Jay would just be ducking his head under the water repeatedly, and then coming up and, like, hearing maybe a word, and then he's down again and he's splashing around, and like he was just like in his own world and obviously getting his own sensory input. Yeah. But what he wasn't doing was paying any attention to the teacher.
Yeah.
And so he kept getting told off. But like, this is one of the early signs of him getting told off, and I'm sitting watching him being told off for not listening.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was a deliberate attempt to avoid being told what to do, because obviously now he's PDA, so maybe there was an issue there with not wanting to hear what was said because he didn't want the demand on him. So maybe that was an issue, or maybe it was something else, but clearly he wasn't taking it in. And he was actually asked to leave the group.
No,
he was booted out of swimming because he wasn't teachable. I guess that was quite shameful. It's like, what, you're gonna just leave this kid to drown, are you? You have a responsibility.
And what age are we talking?
6, maybe.
Oh my god, he was only 5, 6, flipping out.
Yeah, I know. But he was pretty disruptive.
He was quite disruptive. Okay.
He wasn't not with anyone else. He wasn't interacting with anyone else. He was just. I think it was affecting the teacher's self-esteem. To be honest,
she was at a low ebb. I mean, I feel like my place is so money grabby. Like they just keep him on till he was 16, mate. They just keep him going to get the money.
He's nearly there. We're going for 10 meters next.
Well, because he should have got an award for taking the longest to ever pass level 1. So you had that thing of like, he's still there, and then the little ones are coming along, and he's like this massive tall one still doing level 1. And I was just about, they tick off percentages of what they're learning.
Mm.
And I was like, said to their dad, I said, oh, honestly, I don't know if to just take him out. And so I asked him what percentage, and he was like quite getting closer. So we were like, let's stick with it a bit longer. Then he had a nice teacher, which he liked. And he wasn't very firm. He was quite soft, really. But And then there was like a couple of lessons where loads of other kids didn't turn up, and literally had like a 1-to-1 with him.
Oh, awesome.
To be honest, if we could afford it and had the time, that's probably what would have to do it for him. It is 1-to-1 lessons.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like a massive list there, waiting list for the 1-to-1, and they do waiting, somewhere else, but I can't get to there, blah, blah, blah. So he passed eventually, but he's there with all the little tiny ducklings, and he's like a big duckling. And
so can he actually swim now then?
Yeah, but that was only level 1, because it's all about stringing the money out of you. Level 1 is like being confident in the water, which he knew that anyway, but he just they have to tick things off, don't they? So
yeah.
They're like same as you. He's kind of like, his thing was kind of like he just literally couldn't listen. There's too many classes in the pool for start. There's like loads of them going on. It's so noisy, and so I see him, bless him. I'd see him through the glass, and I'd be doing this. I'd be going.
For the listeners of Neuroshambles, Hattie is currently gesturing to her ears, and encouraging her child to listen via the medium of mime.
Exactly, as if that's going to work. And then he would watch for us. He'd go, I could see his little head go, right, yeah, I'm listening. That would last for 2 seconds, and then they've lost him. He's just like bobbing up and down, doing his own thing, whatever.
I think you make a really good point there about the noise. Right, because I think that there is a swimming pool is a uniquely echoey place. Like, and there's a lot of, there'll be screaming that echoes and like laughter and splashing. And then you get the announcements that come over the tannoy and that's echoing around. It's like, it's quite overwhelming, I think, from an auditory perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that Jay in particular would have had problems listening to the teacher. I mean, aside from the fact that he was underwater at the time, just generally, I think he would have found it quite difficult to pick up stuff. So I think that probably plays a part in it.
And do you know what? I've just realised my own problems when I was a child. When I was saying about being scared, I think part of that was like, I'd go on a Saturday morning and it would all this like whoa, shouting, because it'd be more like not lessons. It was like, and I remember being quite scared, and I think it's called that. And I guess when I was in the sea in Cyprus, it was just quiet and it wasn't that echoiness. So because I've realised I've got sensory things more than I ever did realise. I'm realising it a lot now. He still can't swim. I don't know what level he's at with school, because I know he's in one of the lower levels. But that's the thing, you can't get information from them, can you? So I said, well, can you go from one side to the other, without touching? He's like, on my back. I'm like, what?
That's valid, isn't it?
That is valid, but I was like, so I don't really know what he's learning at school, but he would pass with 1-to-1. I think.
Well, this is what. So we tried when Jay got ejected from one swim club. We tried some smaller group sessions in a private pool. We clubbed together with sort of 3 or 4 other kids for like a private session in the hope that would help. That didn't help. Same again. Didn't want to follow instructions. Just did his own thing, and that was also quite expensive to not really be learning. So we realised, I think, at that point it wasn't really worth it. But we found a new place, and Tam at this point had been doing all of this with Jay, and so I think Tam was just like, yeah, you do it. I'm out, right? I've had a go. It's your turn. So I was like, all right, I've got this. Yeah, okay, I'll do this. So we took him to this other place, which was very good. It was a swimming pool attached to a school. And it was my worst nightmare. The whole thing was just because also it was when I, for whatever reason, I had all 3 kids with me, and it was quite small, and the parents had to sit on a balcony above the pool. So I've got Jay in the pool, resolutely not listening, and I can see it, and I can also see that the other parents can see it, so I'm feeling that level of judgment. I've also got Otto and India, who are both toddlers at this point, just going fucking nuts in the small balcony. So I'm trying to keep an eye on them, trying to keep an eye on Jay, seeing, and every now and again I'll look in the pool, I can't see him, where is he? And then I'll see this shape at the bottom, and he will have just, just like sunk to the bottom to do whatever he needed to do. And it was getting incredibly stressful. And he was definitely one of the worst swimmers there as well, because, you know, not because he wasn't coordinated, because he just, I think it's just because he thought he knew it best. He was like, I know what I'm doing. He didn't know best. And he's there going, what's this loser know? So eventually we ditched that one, because again, I didn't feel that they were very supportive. Like, we told them that he was autistic and they understood that, but they didn't do anything different. So, you know, we just sort of, we stopped doing that. And then Tam agreed that they would just take Jay to a local pool, and that they would just do it. And just them two would do swimming, but not lessons, just go and fuck around at a local pool. And they would do that once a week. And that's how it worked. Basically, Tam would sort of nominally try and get him to, you know, to learn strokes and stuff. But it happens, I think, just by messing around in the water and, crucially, not drowning.
So, okay, many questions. So, and none of those lessons the instructors got in the water with them?
No, they just stood on the side barking out instructions in an echoey voice.
Definitely helped. The teacher that Keith had towards the end, he did get in the water. I mean, especially one lesson where he was the only one who turned up. He looked stupid if he stood on the side, so he got in with him. And I think this other one where it's attached to a school. It's not 1-to-1, but when they go up and down, they go with them.
Oh, Otto did that. And that's really good. That was attached to a school as well, right? So they get sort of, so they have instructors positioned all the way along the length, and then they do the length, and they sort of go from instructor to instructor, and they'll sort of just redirect them. So Otto had that.
But I wonder what Jay would be like if you tried to teach him in the sea.
I don't know. Well, he can swim now. Like, Jay can swim. He's nailed it. He's really confident.
Himself.
Yeah. So Tam took him, and they just sort of hooned around in the water, and you know, Tam did a bit of tuition, and then he just got it. And so he's a really confident swimmer now. Otto is also pretty confident. He took him a while, but and as I said, he did the same thing that you were saying, that there were instructors positioned all the way along, and he is not very well coordinated anyway. Just in general, he's quite clumsy and malcoordinated. So he was always sort of, because swimming requires coordination with your whole body, and he would end up sort of veering off or going around in circles because one side of his body was be doing a different thing, and he'd be swimming into other people's lanes and stuff, which is why it was helpful for instructors to be positioned all the way around, because they could sort of redirect him out of other people's faces. And now I think he's made the most progress not being in swimming lessons, but just us being in the water playing. I think that's the way that he's done it. Now, I will say that the hardest to teach out of all of my kids is India.
Really?
Because, again, she's PDA,
right? But
she's fiercely independent and absolutely refuses to acknowledge that she can't swim.
Oh, God.
Right? So she is insistent that I leave her when we're in the pool. I can't leave her. If we're in a big pool. If we're in a smaller pool, which we did this weekend, it was really lovely. There was like a private pool where we went, and that was fine because she could reach the sides, you know, relatively easily, so it wasn't a big thing. But when we're in a bigger pool, I have to be with her. I'm not at that point yet, and she won't listen. If I say, you know, when you swim, if you use your legs and your arms, you'll go way quicker. And she is absolutely like, what do you know, loser? I've got my own style. She actually said, I've got my own style. And it's like and it's like an eel, but with significantly less elegance.
Okay.
Like, so she doesn't use her arms. It's all legs and a lot of head and a bit of shoulder, and it looks insane.
Oh, but she will not be told.
She won't be told, and I've tried really hard, and she won't do it. So she's doing her own thing, and she's essentially convulsing underwater is what it looks like. But she's actually pretty good at not drowning now.
Well, I mean, that's all we're trying to achieve, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
It's a classic. I mean, all us parents, we all moan, whether they're neurodiverse or not, about taking our kids swimming, and the amount of times that other mums say to me, "Oh, that's it now. They can swim and they won't drown on holiday. That's it. I'm taking them out of the lessons. I can't do it anymore. I can't go to that swimming pool and blah blah blah." So I think we do it because it's a life skill, isn't it? It's a life skill and all this. And
yeah, no, I think not drowning, I think is that's it. But to be fair, there will be certain situations that India would have no chance.
Right.
If she fell overboard in the sea, not got much hope. I don't think at that point. So, and again, I dread if that ever happened, because I'd have to jump in to save her, and she would resolutely refuse to accept my help. I can do it. I can do it, Daddy. But I think, we're getting there. So obviously, I've sort of spoken about me not really enjoying swimming, but because my kids love it, I do it with them as often as I can, because there aren't many things that we can all do outside of the house together.
Yeah.
Just because they've got such different needs. Jay doesn't often want to leave the house anyway. And if he does, he'll want to do something that the other two don't want to do. Or, Otto will want to go play football and the other two don't. And so it's really hard getting a thing that we can all do together.
Yeah.
So as a solo parent, finding this one thing that they're all really up for is like, yeah, I'll take the hit. That's absolutely fine. I'll go do it. So we go every weekend I have them, we go swimming, and
really?
I genuinely love it. It becomes this sort of excursion, and it sort of fills maybe 2.5 hours of our afternoon, and it is a massive rigmarole.
Yeah.
There's so much faff that we shouldn't have to be doing. But
you must have, if you're going that regularly, then you must have things down to a fine art now.
Well, do you want to tell me yours first? Actually, I'm always curious as to other people's. What's your routine like when you go?
We're lucky that it's round the corner.
So you can walk?
Yeah, we can walk there. It's not my favourite one, but it's just so convenient. And the other swimming pools are more like got loads of flumes and stuff like that. And they do like that, but I find them a bit stressful because it might not be so bad now, but like one wants to go the other way and one goes the other way, and it's like, well,
yeah, you lose sight of your children.
Yeah, and
for parents of neurodivergence, that's stressful in a way that neurotypical parents won't understand.
I know, but this local one, it's just local council. It's not very fancy. It's not nice at all in that way, but it's fine. So I can dress them in they wear their swimming stuff before we leave the house.
Nice, yes.
Number one.
This is a big win. That's what we do. Absolute golden.
I have their noodles. I like a noodle, long floaty noodle thing.
Nice, yeah, pool noodle.
I've now sort of, well, it's not big. So then they can just wear their Crocs and stuff as well, because I cannot stand the socks and all that.
Getting socks on after swimming is the worst.
So they wear their Crocs, and if it depends on what the weather's like. I mean, if it was now, we just walk around there in their swimming trunks. I would not care.
But the weather is never this hot normally.
No. But even if it's just a bit hot, I'm like, it's only around the corner, just bung a t-shirt over you, that'll be fine, but get there. And then, I'll try to be organised and having like the stuff in separate bags. So like the one bag is ready for when they come out. So we put it in.
Oh, you got two... double bagging.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I've genuinely never thought of that. What on earth am I thinking?
And then you've got to think about where you place it in the locker. You
just revolutionised my game.
Where you've got to have certain bags at the front when you come out. And obviously mine won't. Sometimes they will have a shower. They like a shower to go in. They know they've got to get wet before they go in. They're fine with doing that. And again, because I'm like, oh no, otherwise I'm going to have to get home and wash the hair. I do make them wash their hair, but there's normally a bit of screaming about it. And then, I mean, it's so much better now, but when they were younger, oh my God, trying to get yourself dressed and they're like screaming. We always used to have I know it's probably bad. We always used to have a packet of crisps. I put the towel on them. I'd give them the crisps. They'd be eating the crisps.
Was this before, while you were getting them changed afterwards?
Sorry, this is when we come out now. I've bypassed what's happening in the pool because we're just in the pool. We've got our noodles, we've got our goggles, we're off.
Yeah.
And then when we come back out, my pool does like sections, so it's quite good. The whistle blows, your time's over. I don't have to be the bad guy and say we're getting out. He just says, your session is over.
Get out.
Get it out. Yes, we get out, we get in the shower, scream because of the soap, whatever. And then, but yeah.
Whatever, kids.
Whatever. I put a towel around them, packet of crisps so that but this was when they were littler, you see, so I could get dressed because it's that thing of like face mask for yourself first.
Yeah.
So get myself dressed because then you just know they're going to do the whole thing of like, clothes dropping on the floor and they're getting wet and all that.
Yeah, we'll get onto that, dude.
I just hate all that, but mainly because our swimming pool, the design of it, the changing room is so badly designed. It's really hot, obviously. They're all really hot. People are coming in, the door, it's so narrow, the bit where you've got to go in and people come out of as well. And of course, there's never a big changing room available. Never. And so you're standing there and, yeah.
Do you get changed? This is a thing now because, so Keith is nearly 10 and your other one is nearly 7. Do you choose the family changing room?
Oh, yeah, still now, yeah. I mean, I haven't been with them for about 3 months, but I would think I definitely would. I think the last time, though, because they're a bit older, there wasn't one available. I went, well, we're going individual ones. So we could.
Was Keith down with that? Was he okay with that?
He's all right with it, but nothing gets done. So
right, yeah, okay.
Do you know what I mean? So I open the door and he's still... It's just like getting ready for school in the morning. I go there and I go, right, there's your towel, and then I get myself dressed, go back, and he's still just sat there or playing with something or whatever.
And it makes you wonder what the fuck he's finding to do in a cubicle because there's nothing there. It's just like 4 walls.
He'll find something, honestly.
I know.
He'll find
it's
something.
incredible. It's incredible. The capacity for distraction is phenomenal. With our lot, I've got the routine pretty nailed now. I very rarely have to encourage them to leave the house because they love swimming. So that's one joy, right? I don't have to, when I say it's time for swimming, they will stop what they're doing and they'll do it, which is, that's how much they love it. So
I think mine would be the same, yeah.
So they get their swimming stuff on, like you, get their swimming stuff on beforehand. Otto and India always wear a onesie over their swim stuff. Onesie and Crocs. It's a classic uniform for neurodivergence, right? Easy to get on and off. We only have to have one outfit. We don't have to do pre-swim outfit, post-swim outfit, same thing. Jay will...
Onesie. Yeah.
Yeah, Jay won't wear a onesie now in public, but he will wear Crocs and something just easy to get on and off because he gets the deal. We will then get in the car. I will have 2 bags. I'll have 1 bag just for Jay, and I'll have 1 bag for the other 2 and me. Right. I'm now thinking, based on recent feedback from you, that I could definitely introduce at least a 3rd bag. And say, because at the moment I'm cramming everything into one bag for life. And it's painful. So that'll be an upgrade for the next swimming trip. So we get there and I want to spend as little time as possible in the reception because my kids just fucking scatter, right? Because where we go, there's like a squash court. I've found them on the squash court before because they set the lights off when they go on there and the lights come on, so they love that. I mean, there weren't people playing squash at the time, just to be clear. but they're off there and I'm having to queue up to say, yep, we're here, got to get the wristbands and all of that side of things, and they've just scattered to the 4 corners, and then I get asked the dreaded question, so where are your children? Right, because not that they're judging me, but they need to assess the age to work out whether they can swim or whatever. So I then have to call them to me, and I'm panicking because there's a queue behind me, and I'm shouting their names, and they're obviously not listening because they're in their own fucking world. Eventually, they will emerge from different nooks and crannies of the leisure centre, and they'll come and join me, and then I'll go, look, these 3 are mine. Then we'll get the wristbands and we'll go in. We're going to the changing rooms. Jay's got his own bag, and he, at this point now, at the age he is, doesn't want anything to do with us, so he'll go and find his own little cubicle.
Okay.
He'll do his own thing. And up until very recently, I would be in one big one with Otto and India, and that was a flipping nightmare. That was incredibly stressful because obviously they get distracted a lot. There's a huge amount of distraction. So trying to get them changed when there's 3, even a family change with 3 of us, because they use a lot of space, my kids. They're small, but they use the whole space. That's why we get the outfits on. That's why we get the swimming stuff on first. Yeah. It's usually the trying to get a onesie on a wet body afterwards is the nightmare. For whatever reason, it's uniquely difficult to do. So trying to get them changed is like trying to get leggings on a pig. Right? You're sort of wrestling, trying to wrestle them.
I think if I went swimming in this weather now, I'd just go, right, let's just walk home in your swimming costume.
Yeah, but I'm not a walking distance. I have to get in the car, and that means that I will have wet children in my car, which no one needs. So I think the worst thing about getting changed in the family change is the fucking noise that they manage to create. There is like the kerfuffle, and because those cubicles are not soundproof, do you know what I mean? You could, whatever reason, you can see over them, you can see under them. All this noise is just escaping. God, the bit, like, I used to be mortified by just the stuff that they would say, and the loudness, and was so disruptive. And you see other families just neatly just getting on with it. You know, I can imagine the children folding their clothes neatly in a pile. Here you go, Mummy. I've done the folding myself this time. Well done, sweetheart. I might buy you a biscuit afterwards. All of this shit. My kids are just like, you know, I'm lucky if they keep their clothing in our cubicle, because they're just flinging them around. There have been times where I've had to ask the person in the cubicle next to me to shove the crock back underneath.
Can you pass back those pants, please? Oh, God.
Sorry, mate. You know,
mine would always say stuff like, "Mummy, what's that? Why have you got that hairy bits?" and all that sort of thing. And
and it's all very, very public, and so that's a problem. The noise. Well, it used to be. Now I'm just like, this is who we are. And to be honest, I make it it's a bit of a show now. You know, I do a bit of a running commentary.
So now you all have your own. You all have your own individual.
So now we do, and what's happened recently is that India has decided that she wants to be independent as well, which is fine. Otto also now fancies trying that. So what I do is I get 3 individual cubicles in a row.
Yeah.
Right? And the place we go to, that is actually quite achievable. Then I go in the middle one, and I've got India one side and Otto the other. And then we're swapping Crocs and onesies and goggles like it's some kind of drug deal. You know, one goes under the cubicle one side, you know, and then he'll fling over his onesie, and then he'll shove his shorts back under and go, "Can you get them on inside out, please, Daddy?" It's like, okay, yeah, of course, I'll do that. So all of this stuff happens. And that's actually a lot more harmonious now. And we're having a little chat as we do it. It's quite fun. When we were in the family change, there was always the worst nightmare, was because you said it's about, you know, getting your gas mask on first, right? Before the kids. I didn't do that. I'd get them done first, which in hindsight is an error, right? Because then they're just fucking about while I'm trying to get changed. Yeah. But they are hugely impatient, particularly Otto. He's ready. He wants to go. So I cannot count the amount of times that I've been trying to get my shorts on, and he's just opened the door. He's like, right, we're going. And just exposed me to the world. And I'm like, just close the door. We're not ready yet. I said we weren't ready, Otto. And so I'm just there on display for all and sundry. So
this is why I took packets of Chris and
genius,
and even like books or something, because I knew what he was like. Yeah,
you've got to distract them at all times, because otherwise they'll find their own entertainment, right? So yeah, it's happened too many times, to the point that I think the staff of the leisure centre are getting suspicious that it's on purpose now.
Yeah.
So now we've got individual cubicles. It's much better. It's much better. And I can see it from Otto's perspective. He's like, well, I'm ready. Dude, he doesn't see anything from my perspective. Why would he? He's ready. Let's go.
Well, do they do any of them do swimming at school?
So Jay, I don't think did. Otto was supposed to, but he couldn't handle it. Because they had to get on a bus because it wasn't attached. The swimming pool wasn't attached to the school. Not that kind of school, So they had to get on a minibus, and that was overwhelming for him and dysregulating for him. So then they get there, and I think the whole kerfuffle that we've just talked about getting changed and getting in the pool was a lot for him. And so he just opted out. And initially he would go and just sit and read a book or do something on the side. And then in the end he was like, I don't even want to do that. So obviously, we're very good at advocating for him now, and the school are incredibly good at accommodating him. So we're just like, it's too much for him. There's too much transition. The noise is too overwhelming. He doesn't want to do the swimming. So can we find something different? So they have, which has been amazing.
Oh, that's good.
And you're saying that Keith goes swimming with the school?
Yeah, but as I say, I don't really. Well, because it's so close. I can hear them. When you hear, and every week I wave, and he loves it because. But the TA is always with it. It makes me laugh. They're all walking along carrying their bags. Who's not carrying their bag?
Lord Keith.
And I go, where's your bag? I shout, where's your bag? And the TA goes, I've got it. But she's smiling. They all that's the thing. I know everyone says it, but they all love him. The ones that get him, they all love him. And
he's a character, right? He's got personality,
But yeah, it goes with the school, but I need to ask the teacher next. That's the only way I find out is at the school gates or whatever. I ask. I go, is he actually
is he drowning?
I imagine he's just in the lower group at the bobbing about.
Yeah,
I think there must be a bobbing about group because I know there's some other kids that find it hard to listen.
Yeah,
shall we say?
One of the unique things about going swimming, which I find unnecessarily stressful, is when you're actually changed and you leave the changing rooms.
Right.
You've got to find a locker. And for families with neurotypical kids, I would imagine it's just like, stand there, I'll put it in the locker, then we'll go, right? I cannot do that. My kids are so impatient. So they already want to make a beeline for the water. It's like, no, we can't do that yet. Firstly, because India, I'm not confident that she's going to be able to swim on her own. So, but she's made a beeline. So I'm trying to wrangle everyone. So come and, help me out, right? Just wait there. I will turn my back and try and cram all of this stuff into a single locker because, it's hard enough finding a pound now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why they don't do contactless lockers now, I don't know, because no one's got cash anymore. So I'm trying to find a pound. I eventually managed to find one, and I managed to cram everything into one locker, and I turn around and almost always my kids are not there.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was going to go, how many times I've said, sit there, and then you come back and they're gone. You go, oh,
yeah,
God,
they are not just waiting patiently for
me.
Mine
are under the hairdryer thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they like that. But my kids have this thing where they hide in lockers. Right?
Oh, yes! Every time. What am I talking about?
They get into a locker and it's a game for them. So I have to then walk along all the lockers, listening for the giggling, trying to work out which one's got my kids in, right? And I think it's the sensory thing as well. It's partly a prank thing, but also they like the enclosed space, right? India loves being in a box anyway. So she's probably the ringleader of all of this. Jay's getting bigger now. I'm worried he's going to get stuck at some point. My favourite time was when Jay had climbed into a locker to hide from me, right? But I wasn't the one that found him first. Someone else had evidently found him because it's like he was around the corner and I just heard someone go, oh! And I kind of worked out what had happened at this point. is that she'd found Jay before I did. And
I love that.
and he wasn't sure what to do, so I think he just sort of closed the door again on himself and hoped that they walk away. So I obviously had to make apologies. You know, I'm terribly sorry.
No,
Let's get out.
I've only done awful things where, because now the little one's having lessons and it's different world. Like he's listening. He did have a bit of a bad phase but it was more afterward. He was like, I didn't like that teacher, and he's doing really well now. He actually enjoys it. Blah blah. But so now we have this thing where.
So you've seen the other side of it, then.
I've seen the other side.
This is the thing that I haven't, because obviously I've got like wall-to-wall neurodivergence in my house, right? So I've never experienced, and a lot of me wonders if I'm just attributing all childhood characteristics to neurodivergency. So if you've been the other side, what's it like?
Well,
is it as wonderful as it sounds, Hattie?
It's like, and there was a moment where I thought, oh my God, because he was. But it was a different kind of not focusing. I can't explain it, but like the minute he changed teachers, it just sort of clicked for him. And yeah,
so it's by choice. Maybe he chose not to focus.
Yeah, and it was just sort of like exciting. It was different with Keith. It was more like you could literally see he's like it's just wandering off or blah blah blah. Whereas with the little one, I don't know, it was just, like you say, by choice.
No, there's a thing, I think, that you're right about the wandering off, because it's not just that mentally they're not present, physically they're not present as well. So, like, I think you can, if I'm drifting off or whatever, or I'm not paying attention, I'll still physically be standing there and not really moving, but paying attention. And I think that's what it's like for neurotypical kids that aren't paying attention. They're still standing there, but my kids are like just very evidently not there.
Wandered. I mean, Keith's one of his things. He twirls.
Oh yeah,
he
yeah.
loves, I always
know you're losing him when he starts twirling.
And I always
tough
say,
crowd, man.
But yeah, I quite like the little twirling. But yeah, so with the swimming pool, it's the same, isn't it? It's like I think even he's like, how did I end up here?
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about your younger kid.
So the younger one, but. Poor Keith has to come with us to the lesson, but like it's only for half an hour, and I take a book and we have things in place and blah blah blah. So, but a lot of the time he will still go and play in the locker when we're doing the changing. What takes ages is he then encourages his brother, and because his brother's little, he's like, "This is a great game."
It is a great game, to be fair. If I could get in that locker, I'd be there as well.
Exactly. And it's funny you brought it up, because I just thought, oh, that's what all kids do. But now I'm thinking, I'm like, I have never seen one other kid get in those lockers.
I think it's
not one.
Yeah, because I think they don't see the world in that way. It's weird. Like, there's a thing about neurodivergency that they see the world in different ways and interesting ways and don't just look at that locker and go, well, that's to put clothes in. They look at that and go,
it's like, no, I'm
I
going to
can
get in there.
I reckon I can make it. and when they get in there, they're like, this feels excellent. I'm going to stay in here. So eventually I've got all the clothes in the locker and all the kids out the locker, right? That's the objective achieved. And then we actually go swimming. The actual swim. We've not even got onto the swim yet, Hattie.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't even bypass my actual getting.
No, and again, I can't just wait on the side because India shows no signs of being an independent swimmer yet. And also, to be honest, Jay sometimes gets a bit overwhelmed and dysregulated, and that manifests itself by him being just fucking furious. And he'll get really annoyed at people.
Yes,
so I have to be there to sort of divert that anger a little bit sometimes, or distract him in other ways. And Otto just needs me there. He wants, but not necessarily from a safety point of view, but because he needs entertaining. And so I'm the entertainment. He needs constant interaction with people to help him. Like, he's got a very, very busy brain. I think more so than the other two. So he constantly wants to play a game or ask questions or talk about something. So if he was just in the swimming pool on his own, I think it would be less fun for him. And I'll be honest, like, although I hate swimming as a thing, I really love going swimming with my kids because we've got this set of games now that we play, and it's like, we are very disruptive. You know, one of the games is that they have to hang on, you know, the bar on the side. Yeah, they have to hang on to that, and I will try to yank them off, and then. And that takes up quite a lot of space because I'm literally, and it looks like I'm trying to drown them or something as they're hanging on, and I'm just like, but they love it.
Like a really bad swimming teacher.
Yeah, exactly. Get in the pool. So that's one of the games we play, and they all do it. And there's involves a lot of me flinging them into water, or like playing this game where I wrangle them into a cave and they have to escape, and I have to go and drag them back.
I think we've got one like that. You just reminded me because I say it's been about 3 months, but there's one where it's like there's an out of bounds area, and I think they go on one goes on my back.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and I'm like, you know, the boat or. Or the shark or whatever, and then we're trying to get Keith, and then but the thing is, a lot of time Keith wants to play his own. He's quite happy to do his own thing.
Yes,
he's got his little because his whole thing is imagination.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's got his own stories playing out, and if anything, after he just gets annoyed with us because the little one wants him to play some kind of game.
Yeah, you're cramping his style, basically.
They've started, but he. Bless him. I feel sorry for the little one sometimes because he really wants an older brother who's going to play games with him. And Keith is really happy to play on his own. But I think the little one is really learning to like tap into what he likes. So they've got one now. I hear them say in the hot tub, shall we play Mario? I don't know what that game is, but it involves them going round and round in a circle. And
I love it when they do that, though. Mine do that, and it's really lovely when you have these little games that you play, and it's really nice. The only time that is sort of under jeopardy is when, for example, it's like really busy. So sometimes you'll go in a pool, like sometimes you'll go to a pool and it'll be pretty empty. But like at half term, sometimes I'll book in at half term and I'll forget that it's half term, and it'll be full of kids, like teenagers who are there on their own. So they're just kind of careering around in a way that you and I would have done as teenagers as well. I'm not blaming the teenagers, but there's that manic energy, and it's too much. And Jay absolutely hates that. He can't handle it. So we've sort of gone out with this plan to go swimming for the next, hour or hour and a half or whatever. And Jay will get there and he'll be like, I want to go home straight away.
Really?
And as soon as he's made that decision, everyone gets out. It is. Yeah. You might as well just go on the tannoy and make that announcement. Can everybody get out the pool now? Because Jay's pissed off.
Because Jay wants to.
Yeah, because that's it. Like there's no negotiating. He's made up his mind. And I get it because he's had an expectation of the experience, and it's now more overwhelming than he wanted it to be. It wasn't what he signed up to, so it's not like I'll just tolerate it or I'll find a quiet space and just do a thing. It's like, no, we're done. Everyone out now. We got to go. So, and that's frustrating because sometimes, like Otto is more fine with that kind of thing, and India, and they don't want to go because they've only just got there, right?
Yeah. How do you deal with that? Because I find that sometimes it catches me off guard as well. You're like, as in, I don't know why I forget that he can, because Keith can be like that. It's like if he's gonna go, we've all got to go, mate.
Yeah, but and also, he's overwhelmed. So his overwhelm it trumps my desire to be there for a bit longer. Obviously, we've got India and Otto's needs to consider, and they wanted to be there for longer, and they get.
That's what I found hard now being a single parent, because before that would be the sort of scenario where it's like, well, I'll stay. I'll stay. Or blah blah blah.
So it's all or nothing with us. But what I found I do a lot more now is narrating what's going on, and this is something I've learned through doing Neuroshambles and talking to guests, and just saying, well, look, at the moment, this is too busy for Jay. He's really overwhelmed and he's really dysregulated, and he said that he wants to go. And I think, because he's feeling that way, we're going to need to go. And just narrating that at least sort of gives them a little bit of an insight into advocating for their needs. I guess, a little bit, of speaking up for themselves and to encourage them to do the same if they're in that same situation. To be honest, at that point, I'll say to Jay, like, all right, go in the shower. Because they love the showers, right? That is fine. Yeah. So he can go in the shower and he can be there for like 10 minutes. And then I can say to Otto in India, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll do like round the little whirlpool bit. And then we'll go around this bit. We'll do a little bit of cave escape. And then we'll go into the shower. So I then set, okay, we're not going all straight away. I give Jay that bit of time in the shower and say, these are the steps we're going to take. And then we're going. So I'm giving the other two that build up as well. But it's fucking hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Think about. I mean, that is army military.
But because we go all the time, so I get how it works now, right?
Yeah, wow.
One of the other things that gets to me when in the swimming pool, for whatever reason, they have to wear goggles, right?
Goggles.
But only for about 5 minutes, and then I have to hold them. Right? So they give me their goggles. Well, I have to take them because otherwise they'll just leave them and lose them, right? And goggles are not cheap, are they?
No.
They're like a tenner a pop now.
Yeah.
So I have to constantly be on the like, where are your goggles? Then Otto will be like, I don't know, because he has no executive function. He can't remember where they are. So then I set a mission to the other two to go find the goggles. They'll find them, and I've got to then put them on my arm. I'll have 3 pairs of goggles on my wrist. I'll have a locker key on my other wrist. I'll also have the wristbands that you get to come into the swimming pool. Not just mine, but also India's, because India is massively dysregulated by having anything on her like a wristband. So she can't do that. So I have to have 2 wristbands. So it looks like I've been to a summer of festivals. Just fucking so much shit on my arms. It's a surprise I can stay afloat after all that. There's so much on me. But the goggles is a thing, like losing goggles. Because when you get out, right, and you've got to wrangle them into clothing, and that's a unique, because they're just sometimes a bit grumpy that they have to go out and just a bit wet and probably hungry and a bit tired. Yeah. So it's a little bit more cantankerous when you're getting out. And Jay will lose some goggles because he'll assume that he's given them to me or I will give them back to him, but he'll forget and then he'll lose them. And I have now found the perfect thing. If you lose goggles, right? Now, goggles are going to get lost. You got neurodivergent kids. You're having to deal with lots of different plates that you're spinning in that whole process. Goggles are going to get lost. You can try and change that, but it's a fact of life. Mm-hmm. Here's what you do if you lose goggles.
Okay.
The next time you go swimming, you go to reception and you say, my child left their goggles here last week. And their eyes light up. They fucking love this because they reach under the desk and they pull out the box of lost goggles. And it is overflowing with goggles that kids have forgotten because people just write them off, right? They just go, those goggles are gone forevermore. We'll never see them again. So they just have this massive box of goggles. And then what you do is basically go through them and go, are these yours? Were these your goggles? Now, the problem is, obviously, if you've got autistic kids where truth and honesty is paramount, then if they find it difficult to lie when they're not their goggles, because you're not going to find their actual goggles. The chances of you finding their actual goggles in amongst that lot are astronomical. So you have to say, look, okay, if you see a pair of goggles you like, I know they're not your goggles, right? Your goggles are gone. If you see a pair that you like and that you could tolerate, say yes and we'll just move on. And I did that. I've done that a couple of times now and it's great.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the box. I can't remember how. I think it was like a second week running. We'd forgotten them and I was like, I am not buying them again. And I think I did something similar. I either went and lied and said, or some, I don't know, but there's one woman there. She knows me now. I've been going I don't even have to sign in. I just walk in, like all that stuff you were saying about signing in, looking. They just like open the doors. Oh, here she is, the woman with the crazy kid. It's like the doors come open, and she knows me. And I think I went to buy them, and I think she just got the box out and went, "Here, take one of these."
Nice,
like, yes,
nice. You're in.
But yeah,
you're
and
in
it was streaming over with goggles.
Yeah, because no one collects them. So that is my advice to any neuroshamblers out there that has this regular problem with losing goggles. Just go get some more. Because the thing is, your goggles are not, you're just really swapping one pair of goggles for another, right? They're just in the general pool of goggles throughout the world, and there's one in, one out policy. It's fine. It's just part of the whole goggle sphere.
It's not all rubbish.
Okay, so the positives. I think there are a lot of positives about swimming with neurodivergence. Normally, I'm scraping the barrel to find some positives out of what are quite difficult experiences. And okay, logistically, it can be quite tricky at times. But the joy that my neurodivergent kids, and I've got one of every different flavour, that they get out of swimming is worth the effort. It really is. Despite the fact that I don't really enjoy swimming myself, I absolutely love taking them, and they never say no when I suggest it. That's a great thing. So it's a place for them to get whatever sensory needs that they need to get out, and that's a huge positive of doing a thing that they all enjoy
and
doing.
tires them out, right? Surely you... No.
I wish it did. No, it does. It does to a degree. What it does actually is just relieves me of a little bit of guilt when we get back in the house and they're back on their screens. Because we've done a bit of physical.
Yeah.
We've done a bit of exercise. We got out the house. That's ticked 2 boxes. Now you can go on the screens while I make pizza for dinner. That's why I really like it, because it's this set routine that we're all into now. And it works really well. So that's a huge positive, I think, from swimming. Another positive that I wanted to mention, and this is quite an unusual one, but it was an interesting experiment. We used to go to this special autistic swimming session that was actually organised by Jo Matthews, one of the previous Neuroshambles guests. She's done the last couple of episodes. She is phenomenal. And I don't know how she did it, but she convinced a private college to let a bunch of neurodivergents have the use of their swimming pool. And we drove up to this place. I'm not shitting you. It looked like Hogwarts. It was fucking magnificent. And I'm like, are you sure this is the right place? They shouldn't be letting us in here. And we went in and they opened the side door and we went through into this beautiful changing rooms with loads of space. And then we went in there and there's this massive Olympic-sized swimming pool with no one else in it, just a gang of autistics. And 2 very scared looking lifeguards who are obviously students at the college and are making a little bit of extra money by being lifeguards. And we just had that place for like an hour, and they got all the floats out and the flippers out and the goggles out, and they used the diving boards, and it was absolute mayhem. But if you're a parent of neurodivergent kids, you just buy into it, right? You just know that like there are going to be kids near you probably drowning. Just help them up onto their float again, let them crack on. There was a kind of real ebb and flow to the parenting in that pool, which was a joy to behold, because I think you do, when you're in amongst other parents of neurodivergent kids, you're not just really looking out for your kid, you're looking out for everyone, because it's kind of part of the consciousness. So it was wonderful. The lifeguards in the end realized that they didn't have anything to do. So at first they're like looking at, Jay is doing his like dead corpse in the water thing again, and this lifeguard is getting increasingly unnerved because he's been there for a while, and he's looking over and he's like reaching for his like magic pool fishing net, and he's going to try and I'm like, nah, it's fine, I've got him, he's fine, and I'll swim over and prove that he's alive. We're all happy. So they went from initially being concerned about everything to just basically go, yeah, the parents have got it. They're doing our job for us because they're in the water, they know their kids, and they know. So it was actually quite an easy gig for them in the end, apart from the noise.
Oh, that sounds ideal.
Yeah, so that was wicked.
Neurodiversity champions.
Okay, neurodiversity champions now. These are people or organisations who are doing wonderful things in the realms of neurodiversity and championing it in the wider world. Have you got any neurodiversity champions you wanted to mention, Hattie?
The first people come to my mind, but I mean, I don't they're just like, I don't know what their name is, and it's not like someone you could, but I'll just shout about them anyway.
Yeah.
A little while ago at our school, they said so I think they're like an outreach. Yeah, they're like an outreach from a local special school.
Mm-hmm.
So what they run this course, and it's mainly for ADHD parents. And they were like, oh, it's a 6-week course. And we just had to go along every Friday morning or something like that, 11 a.m. We get a coffee and a biscuit. And it was like this kind of workshop. But oh my God, it was so good. Like, just meet all these other parents that you hadn't spoke to before.
Yeah.
In the school that have also got ADHD kids. Some of them are undiagnosed, some of them diagnosed, some suspecting or whatever. But there's also the 2 women that run it. They were so lovely. They were like, look, this is safe space, as in, like, you know, we don't what happens in ADHD club does not go outside ADHD club. So, you know, be respectful of, you know, people opening up about stuff. But they really wanted it to not be them preaching to us like, this is what you should be doing. They wanted it to be that we're helping each other.
Yeah, you're sharing your experiences and things you work for you and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's
and at
so
first
lovely.
you're thinking, well, I don't know about this. I want expert advice. But they were so right, because it did. I know it's a stereotypical, but it did make you feel less alone. It did make you feel like, you know, and now we're all on a WhatsApp group.
Nice.
And like I've been asking about, because some of them have got kids that are in older years, and sort of, and I'm going to start looking at secondary schools soon or now, and so asking them what ones have they found, you know, were good for SEND departments and blah blah blah, and you know, and so I would shout out that. I mean, I don't know what that is part of. That was just a local school that I think they had to tick boxes of a certain amount of outreach things that they were doing. They were just great women, and I was a right teacher's pet every week.
Of course you were.
Because I'd be asking something, she'd go, oh, very, and every time, I was so ADHD. Every time she'd go, very good, Hattie. That was a good question. I go, yes,
little dopamine hit.
Yes,
yes.
She loves me. She'd always compliment my clothes and my glasses. And I was like,
No, they sound wonderful. Awesome.
Yeah.
I've got a neurodiversity champion. So Bella Ramsey, I don't know if you know Bella Ramsey, the actor. They were in The Last of Us and Game of Thrones as well.
Oh, yeah.
And great actor. And also in The Worst Witch. As well, quite the range from The Worst Witch to Game of Thrones to Last of Us is quite the progression. But they have been speaking very publicly about being autistic in a lot of interviews, because there was a lot of pre-press for the Last of Us, which was the thing on Sky when the season 2 was released a couple of months ago. So there were a lot of interviews with Bella Ramsey discussing their neurotype. They were on the BBC and Vogue magazine and discussing how empowering it is to kind of own their neurotype and understand their neurotype. And they were just really keen to say, well, you know, you might not think that I'm autistic, but neurodiversity comes in all shapes and sizes, and you know, I really am proud that I'm able to talk about it. And it was just you know, I just love when people own it and they advocate for themselves and just kind of speak out about it. So I thought, you know, the more people, especially people that are in the public eye, the more that people can destigmatize it and normalize it, the better. And
absolutely,
Bella Ramsey smashed it out of the park. So good job, Bella.
Tiny epic wins.
Tiny epic wins time now. These are the things that in a neurotypical family wouldn't make any great waves, but to a family with neurodivergency at play, they are major wins. I always like to celebrate these small things. Have you got any tiny epic wins for us, Hattie?
It was more of an epic win for me, really. I feel like,
yeah, well, I'll take it. Yeah,
he hasn't got any EHCP. Right. We're trying to do it now, and the questions I was trying to get him to answer. To be honest, the way they were written was so hard.
What for? Is this for EHCP?
Yeah.
Oh, like, it's a fucking nightmare, isn't it? You've got to do the child's voice interview.
Yeah, and like it felt like I had to have a degree in changing those questions, and I was like, so the first one was sort of like, what's not working for you at school, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And he was like, It's fine. I like my movement time's fine. I like going in the hub. And he couldn't find anything. So I had to really manipulate and, do my best.
Yeah, it's like, we're trying to get support here, kid. Make shit up.
Yeah, he can't say nothing. And so I was a small win for me because knowing him and asking the right questions in the right way, I'd finally, engineered something out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh gosh.
That is a great tiny epic win. Because also, as someone with ADHD as well, filling out a form like that, which is a massive undertaking for anyone, because those forms are horrendous. So for you to get through that and to manage to wrangle some semblance of an answer out of your kid, that is a huge win. Good job.
Yeah, so have you got an epic win?
So I've got a tiny epic win. Yeah, which really took me by surprise. And again, it seems like a really small thing, but it was huge. Otto walked into the kitchen and he said, I want to show you a really cool instrument. Not now because you're making dinner, so I'll show you later.
Wow.
That, to me, of acknowledging that I'm doing a thing and I don't have time to listen to him because I'm doing something and that he'll do it later, is the first time he's ever shown any ability to kind of have that awareness.
Read the room.
Read
consideration.
Room. Yeah. Because, especially if it's something he's excited to show me, it was like, it really, sometimes you step back and go, I didn't realise you had that in you. Well, they evolve though, don't they? This is what I've been talking about a lot lately. They level up. They learn these skills eventually. They're not going to forever be completely oblivious. They're going to pick things up. And this was just a little accelerator pad of evolution for him. And it made me smile. It was lovely. He still hasn't remembered to show me since, by the way.
Oh, right.
I need to remind him again. But yeah, it was a really good moment.
What the flip?
Okay, what the flip moments now. These are the moments that our neurodivergent kids will say or do something that completely baffles us. And I love these kind of what the flip moments. Have you got any what the flip moments to share, Hattie?
He said, can I have he likes his apple cut into pieces, as he calls it, right? And I said, yeah. And I sort of like, for a second, went to do whatever. And he went, I don't see you chopping. I was like...
The sass on that.
I know some people would sort of like tell off and at that, but I just laugh. I was like, flipping hell. I said, it's like living with a prison warden. And he went, yeah, I know. He goes, I see you, Kit, watching Orange is the New Black.
Oh, man.
It's just that whole conversation.
I love it.
Like, you're really growing up. And yeah, there's been loads of what the flip.
I love it when they do that kind of thing. I've got a couple of what the flip moments. One of them is from Jay, which... He got really annoyed with our TV remote control because I think it was running low on batteries. And he was getting unnecessarily furious about it. And he just went, this TV remote sucks. I have to get so close to the TV to make it work. I'm going to be arrested for violating its personal space.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, that was a fun one. And the other one was from India, and I love this one. We're in the garden, and one of our trees, we've got a tree stump that's rotting, and it's about to kind of break. So I was going to just kind of kick it over. And she went, don't do that, Daddy. All of these trees are important, even the stupid ones.
It's true.
Stupid trees. Aww. That was a nice little moment. Okay, so that is it for episode 41 of Neuro Shambles. Hattie, thank you so much for being here. And because this has been the hottest recording session. I don't mean like this has been hot shit. I mean, it's been literally like just in temperature terms, it's been so hot. And we've somehow managed to keep it together throughout this episode. So thank you so much for joining me and coming back to Neuro Shambles.
You're welcome.
For sharing your tales of swimming.
Yeah.
Thank you also to you neuro shamblers who are listening and who have said nice things on the socials or lovely emails that you've written in. If you want to email anything about things that any topics you've been affected by from today, or if there's anything that you want to suggest for season 3, which I'm now planning for in the summer, then please email me at hello@neuroshambles.com. You can also follow or contact me on the socials, on Instagram, on Threads, on TikTok, and on Facebook. So there's plenty of places to keep in touch. Before I let you go, Hattie, is there anything you want to tell us about you? Obviously, your podcast is wonderful. I've listened to it recently. Tell me about that.
So it's the Funny Mummies podcast, and I talk to other comedian mums and dads, but mainly mums, and about how it's not really a parenting podcast. It's more just
getting it off your chest, having a
winging
chat,
it, and moaning and laughing and unjudgmental chat with comedian mums. And we're now not exclusively, but if you want the full length version of the podcast, it's on Patreon, and there's extras and there's VIP things and all that kind of thing. Not dodgy VIP things. But you can get the shorter version with no VIP.
Your Funny Mummies Basics.
Your Funny Mummies Basics, that's on YouTube and all the usual platforms.
Great.
And other than that, I'm just gigging and I'm writing a new show that I'm going to write, direct, but I'm not going to be in. There you go.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Well, so have you got a website that people can keep in touch with you on?
Yeah, just hattywiththey ashdown.com.
And I'll put a link in the show notes to that and to Funny Mummies as well.
And you can find me in all the dating apps.
Thanks for that final plug there, Hattie. Lovely stuff. Never miss an opportunity. Okay, so I think that's about it for now. But all that remains for me to say is have a nice life.